So the promise that you made to yourself in the past may actually be jeopardizing the relationship that you're currently in right now. And here's what I mean, because years ago I was involved in a really bad breakup. My parents sent me money to, pay for my rent for 4 months, and I used that money to buy a plane ticket to come see this girl. And she broke up with me a week before I even got on the plane. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm never going to allow myself feel that type of pain, that kind of hurt again in my life. And although that promise was able to keep my heart safe, it affected the relationships that I tried to have after, because my mindset of trying to ensure that I don't feel that pain jeopardized the relationships that I had going forward. And I know a lot of you have probably been in similar situations. You've just gotten out of a bad breakup and you're thinking, you know what, all guys are the same. There's no point even trying, or I'm never going to open up or be vulnerable as I was in that relationship, in my new relationships. Or, I'm not going to stay faithful one guy anymore because it just hasn't worked. And I promised myself that I'm not going to feel this way again. The problem with that is that you are prejudging a new relationship based on the past experience. You're punishing a new guy based on the bad decisions of an old relationship, right? And whenever situations arise in that new relationship, because you've already promised yourself that I'm never going to feel this hurt, when that situation happens, you begin to think about it. It begins to make you feel cautious and uncommitted, and guess what? The other person starts to feel cautious and uncommitted as well. And guess what? Your fear, what you were scared of, eventually becomes your reality. And that cycle just keeps on going and going. And so there are two things that you need to do to ensure that this cycle stops right now, right? The first thing you need to do is to forgive your ex. Guess what? You broke up with that person, but that person never really left you. That person stayed with you, made sure that your current relationships aren't working and your future relationships wouldn't work as well. So in essence, you haven't really broken up with that person until you forgive that person and release that person. That person is still going to be a major part in determining the decisions that you make. So what you need to do is to forgive that ex, release that person. I released a video a few years ago and said unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Unforgiveness is like taking a door and slamming it in your hand and expecting the other person to feel the pain. You've broken up with that person, but that person is still managing your life. You need to release that person and forgive them. Secondly, you need to forgive yourself. Accept that the situation didn't work out, and the best way to forgive yourself is by learning from that experience. What did you do this time that you can change in the next relationship? Because I see a lot of people, jumping from relationship to relationship and they keep getting the same results. Why? Because they didn't take time to analyze that situation and realize, this is what I did wrong and this is what I could have done better. Think about it. What boundaries didn't I erect in the first relationship that I can erect in this one? Maybe you started doing late night calls a week or two after you started talking, and that made you vulnerable too early. So what you need to do now is to, sort of step back a bit and then just analyze that situation and be like, I'm not going to be as vulnerable early. Or maybe you're like, I've been having sex with all these guys and obviously it is not working. Maybe for the first time I'm actually going to stick with what the Bible says and keep myself pure in these relationships, and see if these guys actually stay long enough to know who I really am. So it's time to break your promise so that you don't go into new relationships with old mindsets or with old baggages. The Bible says you cannot put new wine into old wine skin. You need to get rid of that promise of pain and hurt so that you are able to see clearly in the new relationship that God has planned for you, so that you don't jeopardize that with your past.